Let's take a trip back to 2010. Following the massive success of the Wii, Nintendo was riding high on the hype for their next console. It wasn't until E3 2011 that we would finally hear about the next Nintendo console. It was a weird reveal for a console. In fact, there was a lot of confusion at the time about what the console even was. All we knew was that there was this controller with a screen on it. With the tablet market being on the rise at the time, thanks to products like the iPad and the Kindle, it was such a novel concept to basically have a tablet controller. It wasn't until 2012 when we would see all of the finalized details for Nintendo's next console. The Wii U was released in the United States on November 18, 2012. There were two versions of the Wii U. The basic set, which included a white console and white gamepad controller with 8 GB of storage, and the deluxe set, which included a black console and black gamepad controller with 32 GB of storage and a pack-in title called Nintendo Land. I'll never forget that fateful day of bringing home my Wii U and recording a massive unboxing video. Following its release, the Wii U saw many ups and downs, and ultimately, it ended up being one of Nintendo's biggest console flops in history. Today, I just wanted to take a look back at the Wii U in 2020. Let's start off with the console itself. It felt like Nintendo tried to make the Wii U as a direct sequel of the Wii. Obviously, besides the name, the Wii U also had a very similar build as the Wii. It has a heavily plastic outer casing with a very rectangular shape. But it does take the cheap look of the original Wii and tries to incorporate a more modern look. While it doesn't look like the most elegant piece of technology, it is a nice step up from the Wii. The Wii U brings a lot of technological advancements that were not present in the Wii. For one thing, the Wii U was finally Nintendo's first HD console. In the previous generation, the Wii definitely had an uphill battle against its competitors, since it only supported 480p, while both the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 supported up to 1080p. So Nintendo finally making the move to HD was definitely a welcomed upgrade. And it looks really great in games like Super Mario 3D World and Mario Kart 8. While HD is nothing new, it was still nice to finally see Nintendo games in a higher resolution. Now let's talk about the Wii U's flagship feature, the gamepad controller. As I mentioned earlier, Nintendo felt so confident in this feature that they dedicated a trailer at E3 2011 to only show off the controller. The gamepad has a 6.2-inch touchscreen and a stylus. Steve Jobs must have been rolling in his grave. The gamepad did open up many different features. For one thing, you had this screen which could be used with games such as Nintendo Land, where it shows something different on the screen than the TV, which Nintendo called asymmetric gaming. Or you could even just play games on the gamepad screen. However, one of my main gripes with the gamepad is that it has a resolution of 854 by 480, which isn't like the worst resolution ever, but it just makes you miss playing on an HD screen. The gamepad also gave us the introduction of amiibos. It had a little NFC reader on the bottom left, which ended up being completely useless for 2 years before amiibo figures were announced alongside Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. The gamepad even had a camera which allowed you to take pictures in certain games, or you could use it for video calls. Overall, the Wii U gamepad had a lot of potential for being really cool. I'd say it even planted the seed for what would eventually become the Switch. But in the end, the gamepad just wasn't ideal for the time. For one thing, it was ridiculously bulky. It basically felt like you were playing with a shoebox. And since the gamepad is the main controller for the system, it meant that you were often forced to use it, unless you wanted to shell out another $50 for a Pro controller. The gamepad also suffered from wireless issues. Since the Wii U is basically wirelessly sending the image to the gamepad screen, it meant that you had to keep the gamepad within range of the console. And let me tell you, it was a really short range. Most people were expecting that they could bring their gamepad from the living room into their bedroom, but it just wasn't possible. When the Wii U's operating system was first announced, it left a lot of people scratching their heads. With such features as Nintendo TV and the Wada Wada Plaza, it just made me wish that there was a more straightforward operating system. And don't get me wrong, like, the features seemed really endearing. For example, the Miiverse was introduced as basically a social media platform. The idea was that if you get stuck on a part of a game, for example, you could share a screenshot of that game and ask people for help. But in the end, it just became more of a hassle, especially when Nintendo started heavily moderating it. One of the main issues with the Wii U's operating system that I still have to this day is just how slow it is. I think this caught most people off guard when they first got their Wii U, because it would take forever to just get from one menu to another. Eventually, Nintendo did come out with a series of updates that would make the loading feel a bit faster, but even by the end of the Wii U's life cycle, the operating system still felt sluggish, especially by today's standards. Overall, the Wii U's operating system has come a long way. It saw the removal of a lot of features such as Nintendo TV, and it also saw the introduction of many new features such as folders. Side note, please Nintendo give us folders on the Switch. Although it had many shortcomings, I didn't think the Wii U's operating system was terrible. To this day, I still think it has one of the best internet browsers on any console, thanks to the Wii U GamePad's touchscreen. Just like the Wii U offered full backwards compatibility. It was a really interesting approach where there was a separate component that basically put an entire Wii inside of the Wii U. You would launch the Wii application, which would then take you to the Wii menu. It was a really weird way to do backwards compatibility, but hey, it worked. I believe every single game on the Wii also worked on the Wii U. It wasn't like today where you'd have to wait for a game to become backwards compatible. So while it was a weird way to do it, they managed to pull it off. Alright, now let's finally talk about the actual games, because that's what you usually use a game console for, right? In short, the Wii U's game library was unfortunate. Don't get me wrong, we got some amazing games on the Wii U. We got The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, Mario Kart 8, and one of my favorite 3D Mario games, Super Mario 3D World. But there were just so many months where there was nothing to play on the Wii U. And it feels like Nintendo really learned their lesson from that, since we basically see a new game for the Switch every month. Some of my favorite games on the Wii U were the ones that used the gamepad in interesting ways. For example, Game & Wario does a really good job at making the gamepad experience unique. This game is still one of my favorite party games that came out of the Wii U. Overall, while there were a handful of really great games on the Wii U, there just wasn't enough to keep us satisfied for years to come. By 2016, Nintendo had completely shifted their focus onto their next console, the Nintendo Switch, leaving the Wii U in the dust. In the coming years, we'd see many Wii U games being ported over to the Switch, like Mario Kart 8, Toad's Treasure Tracker, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Nowadays, the Wii U just feels like an awkward piece of Nintendo history that even Nintendo themselves are uncomfortable mentioning. I think that the Wii U had a lot of potential. It was a fresh and fun idea that offered the introduction of many new games. After targeting the casual audience with the Wii U felt like Nintendo's return to the hardcore gamers. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Wii U reach its full potential. Let me know in the comments some of your guys' favorite Wii U memories. And while you're doing that, feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and hit that notification bell. For now, my name is Chase, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.